A schedule of the general elections in India has been announced. These elections are for the Lok Sabha or the lower house of the parliament. The polls will be held in 7 phases starting April 19th. Counting of votes will be on June 4th. And this marks the beginning of the mega electioneering season that will see over 900 million people exercise their franchise.
India's Election Commission has spoken, unveiling the much anticipated details for the upcoming elections. On Saturday, March 16, the Election Commission announced that the Lok Sabha elections will unfold in 7 phases, commencing on April 19. 21 states will cast their votes for Lok Sabha candidates in the inaugural phase on April 19, and results will be announced on June 4.
We'll do it in 7 phases, as was done last time. 7 phases. Phase 1 will start from 20th March notification, 5 days from now. And last date of withdrawal would be 30th March and date of poll would be 19th of April. 7th phase notification will be on 7th of May and polling on 1st of June. Date of counting in the entire country would be 4th of June for all by-elections, for the assembly elections, for the parliamentary elections.
96.8 crore citizens have registered themselves to vote for the general election. The first-time voters count to over 1.8 crore. The number of centenarian voters is pegged at 2.18 lakh. For the seamless voting experience, 10.5 lakh polling booths are being set up for voters. More than 1.5 crore officials will be deployed to provide seamless operations at the centers. Over 55 lakh EVMs will be used to conduct elections this year.
Mainly 4 challenges हमारे पास हैं, 4 M's: muscle, money, misinformation and MCC violations. Essentially 4 किस्म के broad जो हमारे process हैं, और इसी के संदर्भ में पूरा जो process अब आज से शुरू होगा और जब तक चुनाव खत्म होगा तो इलेक्शन कमीशन का अधिकांश समय इन्हीं 4 चीजों में लगने वाला है.
In addition, assembly elections in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim and Andhra Pradesh will unfold on April 19 and May 13, while Odisha will witness polling in 4 phases from May 13 to June 1st. After this announcement, political parties have welcomed the schedule. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the BJP NDA are fully prepared for elections and they are going to the people on the basis of their track record of good governance and service delivery across sectors. As dates are announced, the Model Code of Conduct has also come into force that political parties have strictly adhered to. With growth in every voter category, the upcoming polls to elect the 18th Lok Sabha is a promise to be a testament to India's democratic spirit.
The 7-phase general election will see 2 rounds in the month of April, 4 in the month of May and 1 in June, with the big judgment day on the 4th of June. The great Indian election is all set to make every political party sweat in the hot summers in India. With my colleague Rishi Kumar and video journalist Pramod Negi, this is Anil Thomas for DD India from New Delhi.
And with the announcement of the general election schedule by the Election Commission of India, the Model Code of Conduct has come into effect. The code plays a crucial role in ensuring free and fair polls. Our next report has the details.
In order to ensure free and fair elections, it is imperative that a set of guidelines to regulate the candidates and political parties is put in place. In India, these norms are called the Model Code of Conduct or the MCC. These guidelines are issued and enforced by the Election Commission of India. To put it simply, MCC is a list of do's and don'ts for the candidates, which they are expected to follow during the election process. It comes into effect from the day the Election Commission of India announces the poll schedule and is operational till the elections are concluded. During the general elections, the code is applicable throughout India. Let's now take a quick look at the key MCC guidelines. The ruling party should not use its official position for campaigning purposes. Parties and candidates should abstain from activities and delivering speeches that may create communal hatred. They should refrain from corrupt practices like bribing, intimidating and transporting voters. The MCC is not legally binding, but the Election Commission of India sends a show cause notice to candidates if they violate the code. The poll body goes ahead with the necessary proceedings if the candidate fails to reply within the specified time frame. Citizens can also report violations of the Model Code of Conduct by the candidates. To make this process easier, the ECI launched the C-Vigil app in 2018. A person can simply click a picture or take a video and briefly describe the complaint before uploading it on the app. The complainant also has the option to remain anonymous. The C-Vigil app is also a reflection of how the MCC has evolved over the times. The MCC guidelines trace their origins to 7 decades back when in 1960 the political parties in Kerala adopted a code during the state polls. With the enforcement of the Model Code of Conduct, the Election Commission of India has been ensuring a level playing field for smaller parties and independent candidates by helping to keep money and muscle power in check. Bureau Report, DD India.
An Indian political party, BJP's Overseas Friends of United Kingdom, organised a spirited car rally in London. The rally was dedicated to showcasing their support for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the political party BJP in the upcoming general elections in India. The rally commenced from Kachleva Patidar Samaj Complex in Northolt and culminated at the Swaminarayan Baptist Temple in Wembley. Also taking part in the rally, UK parliamentarian and Padma Shri recipient Bob Blackman addressed members of the Indian diaspora after the car rally culminated at the Baptist Swaminarayan Temple in London.
Obviously, the Indian elections are a massive election. It is the biggest exercise of democracy anywhere in the world. And I have a little prediction for you. I think there's one. That is majority with 400 plus. Play a big part in making sure that Narendra Modi is still Prime Minister and indeed BJP still run the government. Now, not only do we have a wonderful government in India, but we have a wonderful Prime Minister who's Indian.
And in a daring display of prowess, the Indian Navy executed a meticulously planned operation in the Arabian Sea, culminating in the surrender of 35 pirates and the safe rescue of 17 crew members from a distressed vessel. The operation, spearheaded by the Indian warship INS Kolkata, unfolded over 40 intense hours, showcasing the Navy's unwavering commitment to maritime security and humanitarian rescue missions. The Indian warship had carried out the interception of the pirate ship Ruven almost 2,600 kilometers from the Indian coast and forced the pirate ship to stop through calibrated actions which were augmented by INS Subhadra, Hale RPA P-8I maritime patrol aircraft and Marcos Prahar's airdropped by C-17 aircraft. This coordinated effort ensured the swift and safe evacuation of the distressed vessel's crew, leaving no room for error or compromise. By swiftly neutralizing the pirate threat and ensuring the safety of those aboard the distressed vessel, the Indian Navy reaffirms its status as a formidable guardian of the seas. And latest update on the forest fire in the Wellington area of the Nilgiris district of Tamil Nadu. Southern Air Command of the Indian Air Force has launched a firefighting effort in the forest. Mi-17 V5 helicopter equipped with Bambi bucket deployed for the operation. Bambi bucket is a specialized equipment used by the Mi-17 V5 helicopter, which enables it to carry a large volume of water underslung so that the water can be effectively dispensed in the fire-affected area. The IAF has utilized this equipment in affected areas of Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Nagaland, Goa, Jammu and Kashmir, Car Nicobar, etc. in the recent past. On March 12th, a devastating forest fire broke out in a reserve forest. The fire destroyed around 30 hectares of land and threatening the region's biodiversity. The Nilgiris district is part of the Western Ghats and is known for its rich flora and fauna. International news. Sunday is the final day of Russian presidential election in which incumbent Vladimir Putin is expected to secure yet another term in office. Moscow accuses the West of encouraging extremism at the presidential election in Russia as over 20 regions detained people attempting to pour dye into ballot boxes or set polling stations on fire. DD India's Darshan Tarnishova has more about the voting on the second day.
The turnout in Russian presidential election on the second day of the voting reached 55%, according to the Central Election Commission. Authorities say they recorded thousands of attacks against the election cyber infrastructure, as well as the websites of the state services and the ruling United Russia Party. Several attempts to interfere with the election process have also been recorded, including attempts to put dye into the ballot boxes. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said that the Western countries are encouraging individuals to extremism at polling stations. In the meantime, Ukrainian shelling in the southern Russian city of Belgorod killed 2 people. A drone attack caused fire at a Russian oil refinery in the Samara region. And Russian Ministry of Defense said it thwarted yet another attempt by the Ukrainian armed forces to cross the Russian border. Moscow says the purpose of strikes on Belgrade was to disrupt the course of voting in the Russian presidential election. But authorities in Belgrade say the turnout is nevertheless over 70% already. Dasha Cherneshova reported in Moscow for DD India.
And the Russian Defense Ministry released a video showing military personnel casting their ballots during early voting for the country's next president on Wednesday. The military personnel of the 29 Guards Combined Arms Army of the Vostok Group of troops took part in the rare areas of the Special Military Operations Zone. The voting was organized at mobile polling stations in the rare areas of the Special Military Operation in full compliance with the requirements of the law. And Russia accused Ukraine of using terrorist activities to try to disrupt its presidential election on Saturday. Former President Dmitry Medvedev criticized protesters for setting fire to voting booths and pouring dye into ballot boxes. The Russian Foreign Ministry reported that Kiev intensified its terrorist activities during the election and requests more financial assistance and lethal weapons. The head of the Electoral Commission, Ella Pamlifova, said that in the first 2 days of voting, there had been 20 incidents of people trying to destroy voting sheets by pouring various liquids into ballot boxes, as well as 8 cases of attempted arson and a smoke bomb. Medvedev warned those responsible could face treason sentences of 20 years. Now, officials at the Indian High Commission in Tanzania say trade between India and Tanzania is expected to exceed $7 billion this fiscal year. This will exceed the previous record set last year when trade between both the countries was over $6.4 billion. DD India's Isaac Lucando has more.
Tanzania is poised to become India's largest trading partner in Africa. According to Tanzania's government, India is one of the top 5 investors in the Tanzanian economy, having invested over $3.7 billion in 2022 alone. Tanzanian exports to India have surged, aided by India's duty-free scheme, covering over 90% of Tanzanian goods entering India. Popular Tanzanian exports to India include gold, dried legumes, coconuts, and cashew nuts. In return, Tanzania imports scooters, motorcycles, electrical transformers, and petroleum products from India. The boost in bilateral trade is attributed to a dozen Indian investors entering the Tanzanian market in the past year. Last month, Indian billionaire Gautam Adani expressed interest in expanding his business ventures into Tanzania. The Tanzanian government credits the smooth, decades-long bilateral relations for the surge in trade, with Indian-assisted development projects worth $1.2 billion already underway. Isaac Lucando in Dar es Salaam, reporting for DD India.
Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Nigerian officials say the nation's armed forces have killed over 200 terrorists in the last week. Volcano erupts in Iceland for the 4th time, over 4,000 residents affected. And Royal challenges Bangalore to take on Delhi Capitals in the Women's Premier League finals.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political, and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek. A second aid ship loaded with food and other supplies for Gaza was ready to sail off soon after the first vessel successfully delivered humanitarian resources. The second ship, with 240 tons of aid, was moored at Larnaca port, awaiting a signal to sail. US-based charity World Central Kitchen, which arranged the mission with the UAE, and Spanish charity Open Arms, with support from the Cypriot government, said the new shipment includes pallets of canned goods and bulk products. WCK said the second boat also had 2 forklifts and a crane to assist with future maritime deliveries to Gaza. A cruise ship would accompany the cargo boat with 8 workers to operate the machinery and offload the aid. Almost 200 tons of food arrived in the enclave late on Friday, the first shipment in a new aid route to the Gaza. In the first mission, the charity offloaded aid onto a makeshift jetty WCK built from the rubble of destroyed buildings. Meanwhile, a World Central Kitchen staff member posted a video showing the last pallets of aid being unloaded off the first Gaza aid supply ship early Sunday morning. 200 tons of food was delivered in northern Gaza on Friday night as humanitarian aid.
All right, there it is, the last 2 pallets of food getting loaded onto the last truck. Behind me, off of the barge, is the Open Arms boat back there. 200 tons of food delivered here in northern Gaza. It's going to go up to Gaza City.
US and Jordan dropped more aid into Gaza in a joint humanitarian aid operation. Bundles of Jordanian food supplies were among the items dropped during the operation. The United States began airdrops on March 2nd and is planning a US military sea lift of assistance from the island of Cyprus. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz urged Israel to allow humanitarian aid access to Gaza on a larger scale. On his 2-day trip to the Middle East, Scholz to meet Jordan's King Abdullah and also to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. German Chancellor Scholz stressed on the need for aid to reach Gaza and said their Air Force dropped pallets with 4 tons of relief goods by air into the enclave on Saturday.
We are standing firmly by Israel's side in defense of its own country, and Israel has every right to defend itself against the Hamas attack. At the same time, it is important that the rules of international law are respected. It is about ensuring that civilian casualties are avoided, that humanitarian aid reaches Gaza, and that a long-term solution is found. I will do all of this intensively during this visit, and that is why it is necessary now, precisely at this point in time.
Now, thousands of Israelis rallied in Tel Aviv on Saturday, calling for the government to make a deal with terrorist group Hamas to secure their release. The crowd gathered at Tel Aviv's Hostet Square with speakers including the French and German ambassadors to Israel. The rally ended with organizers calling on participants to march to Military and Defense Ministry headquarters after Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announced that he had convened a meeting with top defense officials to discuss efforts to return the hostages. Ukraine's Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko visited the wounded on Saturday following a deadly Russian missile attack on Odessa. The minister instructed his ministry to review and amend the emergency services approach to emergency response, taking the situation on the ground into account. A Russian ballistic missile attack struck a residential area in Ukraine's Black Sea port city of Odessa on Friday, killing 21 people and wounding more than 70. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro will run for a second re-election to secure another 6-year term in voting planned for July 28. Maduro, a 61-year-old former union leader, was proclaimed as the Socialist Party's candidate by Vice President Diosdado Cabello and took the stage at a large sports arena to address the supporters. Candidates have until March 25 to register, and it remains unclear whether the opposition will name a replacement for Machado, who is under increasing pressure to pick a substitute. Now, the United States has threatened to reimpose oil sanctions on Venezuela, raising fears among local business owners. The growth forecast for 2024 has dropped, reflecting the impact sanctions would have on the Venezuelan economy. DD's Latin American correspondent Mari Trinimina has more details.
Importing spare parts for his mechanic workshop has been difficult for Miguel Contreras, who has been struggling to find suppliers abroad. The Venezuelan entrepreneur opened his business 10 years ago, a decade in which the country experienced sustained economic decline, inflation, devaluation, government controls, and more recently, U.S. sanctions. The prolonged economic crisis hit Venezuelans' purchasing power. The return of sanctions could worsen a situation already in free fall.
If a person's vehicle is damaged and they don't have the purchasing power to repair it again, that hurts me a lot.
Even though sanctions are meant to exclusively target the gas and oil industry, they have impacted other sectors, often because of the challenges of doing business with a Venezuelan company.
The private non-oil economy has been affected by sanctions, mostly due to over-compliance in the financial sector. Banks have to walk like they're in a minefield.
Oil and gas sanctions against Venezuela were imposed in 2019, but then eased in 2023 by the Biden administration as a result of a political agreement to reach free and fair elections. According to the White House, Venezuela has violated the agreement by banning presidential opposition candidates from running for office and will reimpose those sanctions if bans are not lifted by April.
Economic experts had predicted nearly 10% growth in the Venezuelan economy for 2024. But if sanctions return, growth could be reduced to less than half.
Instability and fear have already driven foreign investment away from the country. Supermarket owner Rodolfo Tavares says managing a business in Venezuela is tough amid uncertainty.
It's not so easy to stay active in a market that has so many ups and downs, so many difficulties from an economic and social point of view.
Reinstating sanctions would hit the country's main source of revenue, the oil industry. The only American oil company still working in Venezuela, Chevron, would also not increase production, as it had been authorized to do last year.
There have been 100,000 more barrels produced this year compared to last year. Those are in fact 100,000 that Chevron has contributed, and it's very important to maintain them because we need to think not just about this year, but the years to come.
While forecasts seems to be discouraging, business owners in Venezuela carry on. They can't control actions on the political area, but they are doing what they can to push the local economy to move forward. Mari Trinimena in Caracas, reporting for DD India.
Now, Nigerian officials say the nation's armed forces have killed over 200 terrorists in the last week. About 280 other people have been arrested, suspected of other crimes, including the theft of crude oil. DD India's Tessa Makende reports from Jos.
Nigeria's Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buber, said in a statement that the arrests were part of several ongoing military operations across the country. Among those arrested are suspected oil thieves, while 26 kidnapped hostages were rescued from their abductors. The authorities note that over 400 suspected insurgents and their families have surrendered to troops. Nigeria has been battling terror attacks and other forms of criminality, such as kidnapping for ransom and crude oil theft, for years. According to the United Nations, the terror attacks have led to the deaths of over 35,000 people and displacement of over 2 million others. Last year, the House of Representatives said the country lost over $10 billion to crude theft in 11 years. The defense authorities have vowed to sustain the offensive against enemies of the state. Tassim Akende in Jos, reporting for DD India.
Cricket now informed Delhi Capitals will take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in the final of Women's Premier League 2024 on Sunday. It could have been a repeat of last year's final, with Delhi Capitals once again taking on Mumbai Indians, but Smriti Mandhana-led Royal Challengers Bangalore pulled off a heist and snatched victory from the jaws of defeat in the eliminator against Mumbai Indians on Friday. Mandhana's RCB will face Meg Lanning's Delhi Capitals at the jam-packed Arun Jaitley Stadium at 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Whoever lifts the trophy will end the long-awaited title drought for both the franchise. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks air on DD India. I'm Abhishek. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.